Well, hello. Welcome once again, internet friends near and far, to another episode of Parks and Conversation. And this is a podcast where we talk about parks and recreation, the classic NBC sitcom starring Amy Poehler, Nick, what's his name?
Nick Swardson?
Not Nick Swardson. No, Nick Offerman. Nick Swardson is a different guy.
Are they?
He's a comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there's people in this. We like them. You like them. Let's talk about it together. My name's Jason, and I'm joined all the way across town by my friend Jeremy. Say hello,
Hey,
Jeremy.
how's it going?
Oh man, it is so good. It's just a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And I woke up after not sleeping well at all last night. But I woke up with so much optimism that today's going to be sunny, beautiful, and I get to talk about the road trip, season 3, episode 14, with my friend Jeremy. So it's all wins today so far.
So far,
All wins.
the episode is young.
Yeah, I mean, this could go off the rails real quick, but let's try, Jeremy, to be extra focused today.
Yeah, let's be really let's stick to the rails.
Let's really rail this one home. No, I don't know. That's not an expression.
I don't think so. I don't think we should try to make it one.
No,
We've already gone off the rails, talking about the rails. So that's meta.
That is the essence of meta. That's fantastic. So this episode is called The Road Trip. And the basic premise is that Ben and Leslie's relationship is progressing. Their feelings for each other are growing stronger and stronger. And so what's going to happen? We'll tell you in a little bit. But then also there's a B plot where Tom is trying to develop a game show for one of the thousands of networks out there. And then there's also a C plot where Ron is informing young minds about local government. And there's just so much happening in this episode that I think, Jeremy, I think we should need to just look at each of the plots on their own, recognizing that this is a 2-day period that this episode takes place in. But we're going to just go like A plot, B plot, C plot.
Like we're deconstructing it.
Yeah, we're remixing it, and then we're putting it back together. We're remixing the remix. So how's that sound?
It sounds good. I'm for it. Which one are you going to start with?
Well, I think the easiest one to start with is the C plot.
B. Yeah.
The B plot?
C plot. I can't remember which ones they were. Yeah, let's do C. Because C was my favorite.
Is Ron.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to set up, like, there is this road trip that's happening. And so Ben and Leslie are gone. Tom is using Leslie's absence to convince the rest of the parks team to help him with his game show idea, which leaves Ron all to himself in the office.
Yeah.
And which is an interesting thing. Like, yes, Ron is not a huge fan of local government, but he is going to clock in. He's going to do the hours. So while everybody else is off doing their own thing, Ron is still sitting there, filling his hours, not doing anything.
With something, with nothing.
Yeah. And so there is apparently a lot of an elementary school going on a field trip to Pawnee City Hall, which sounds super boring. Sounds almost like a disciplinary punishment, like a field trip because you got in trouble.
Right.
So, Jeremy, what is the worst field trip that you ever went on when you were in school?
That's a great question. Man, I'm on the spot. I think it has to do with probably a petting zoo or pumpkin patch or something. I don't know. Field trips did feel like a punishment. Like, we're trying to get you out of school, but you can't have any fun because you can't go anywhere or do anything. You have to stay in this line and have a buddy, and it's not a buddy that you got to pick. And you have to be quiet. And field trips, I don't know, felt worthless to me. Well, how about you?
Well, I would say we went on a field trip one time to the library. And it's like,
did you still not have okay, school. That's good.
we had a library, and then they're like, we're going to go to this library. And
do you see how much better this library is than yours?
And it wasn't really, because it was in Kirkland, And the Kirkland Library now is great. When I was in elementary school, it was not great. It was really lame. Well. No. And it was, the main reason we went was because it was within walking distance from my elementary school. So first grade, all the first graders went to the library and got a library card. And that was that. So, and I still probably owe like $40 to that library system.
My kids, I don't remember. My kids now, they've gone through here school. Both of them have gone through the same school, elementary school, and they have gone on a bus field trip. And I don't mean like on the school bus. I mean, they walk down and they catch the public transport bus, ride it around Edmonds, and it drops them back off. And that's their field trip. That's it.
I think that's great. I think we need to educate more people on the values of public transportation, and it starts young.
Sure, absolutely. The fact that it was reticulated, it was a reticulated bus, was just like it was Disneyland to those kids. Like you can be in the front, in the back of the bus, and I was like, Dad, I couldn't even see the front when it went around the corner. It's like, yeah, that's how those work.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched last night. I watched Stranger Than Fiction, the Will Ferrell movie.
Excellent movie.
It is a great movie, and it is one of the. Yeah, I wrote whole papers on Little Did He Know. I taught a class on Little Did He Know. It is one of those movies that, like, yeah, it just is. It's just a good movie, but it's the only movie that I've ever seen that utilized the reticulated, the accordion bus.
It's a very well-spoken bus.
Yeah, it's very erudite. But it uses the accordion feature of that kind of a bus really well. Because there's a scene where Will Ferrell is on the bus and Maggie Gyllenhaal's character comes on, and they are in conflict already because he's auditing her, if you remember. And so he's sitting in the accordion section, and she's sitting in the row right behind it, and it's moving. And every turn, like the angle, like it creates like a separation and then it coming back together. It's just really great film. It's like really good cinematography. And I was like, this is awesome. And it like highlights the nature of their relationship in such a interesting way. And knowing this was the second time I've seen this movie, like knowing where it ends up, it's like, this is kind of cool. Like they're foreshadowing some things here. So yeah, anyway, but then also the bus itself plays a major role in the resolution of the story.
It's true.
And so that's just such a good movie. It's so good. Anyway, so we were talking about field trips.
And parks and recreation, just, but whatever.
One time I was a chaperone for a field trip. Man. One time for my son's first grade class, and they were walking to. So they're in Linwood Elementary School, right? And so just down the street is the fire station. And just a little farther down the street is the police station. And so they were going to do a walking field trip to both of these. And it was awful. It was the worst. It wasn't that like it's that far away. It's not far away at all. It was just the worst experience. None of the kids cared. And I was just so bad.
Last field trip, because this is my kids again, walking field trip from the school to a mailbox, and they mailed a letter and came back. That was their field trip. That's a true story.
Was that just this year as you're homeschooling them?
All right, kids, time for a field trip. Let's go to the mailbox. No, that was...
All right, kids, it's Aaron's class.
No. Yeah, anyway, so field trip. Yes, Pawnee field trip. Back on track.
Correct. So they're coming to City Hall, and Ron is in the office by himself, and a kid just comes in and's like, hello, is anybody here? And Ron comes out of his lair, and he's like, hello, what are you doing here? He's like, I need to talk to somebody about local government. And Ron's just like, someone will be with you shortly. Or like, no one's here right now. And she says, aren't you here? And he says, no. He just lies to this kid, which is so great.
Speaking of chaperones, there is none. It's like you're just free to roam City Hall. Mm-hmm. Like so many raccoons of Pawnee.
She's just on her own. Yeah. And so so she's here, like wanting to learn, and Ron is shutting her down. But then eventually he comes back out because she's just sitting at the desk waiting for somebody to come, and he's like, can we postpone this for another day? And he's like, I my report's due tomorrow. and her whole thing is like, why government matters. And so now this is like a call to action for Ron. Like, he's going to tell her why government matters. And his exact quote is that it is never too early to learn that the government is a greedy piglet that suckles on a taxpayer's teat until they have sore chapped nipples. I'm going to need a better metaphor
for this 9-year-old.
Yeah. So then he starts talking to her. Her name is Lauren, and he's like, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about local government and how miserable it is, essentially. And so she's on board. It's great. And the first, he's eating, and so he comes out and he's got mustard in his mustache, and she calls him out on it and is like, "Don't sass me, Burkus," which is so good. I love the last names of these people too. As like we walk through, like Akitis, Burkus, just really great names. And so he starts by starting with John Locke and life, liberty, property. And all of this, like he just gets into like the fundamentals of libertarianism with this 9-year-old, which is really, really a bold place to start. And so the next time we see him, it cuts back and forth between all the different stories, but he cuts back, and so then he's like, we're going to talk about taxes. And he's got the lunch. He's like, you should be able to do whatever you want with this lunch, but I'm the government. I'm going to take 40% of your lunch right off the top. And he starts eating her food in front of her. And she's like, that's not fair. And then she's like, you're learning. So he does a really good job of eating that sandwich, like quickly.
Even at the end, it's just like, oh yeah, good. You're learning. Uh-oh. Capital gains. And he takes the last bite.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah. And so then the next time it cuts back to him, his opening line is, and that, Lauren, is how FDR ruined this country. Which, the FDR is like, the New Deal and bringing people out of the Depression and leading the country through World War II. But a lot of it was built on these government programs and infrastructure projects and all the stuff that was like really expensive. And and so it created a wider tax base, all this stuff that libertarians are still just like that FDR, robber. So then like somebody...
Libertarians sound like the Hamburglar.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Did you see what Ron just did to this kid?
He burgled her lunch.
Yeah, he burgled 40% of her lunch right off the top. And so then somebody from, just calls out Lauren, ready to head back. So I'm hoping that's a teacher.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. And so she leaves, like, I really enjoyed talking to you. And he's like, I like talking to you too. And then he's like, I have a gift for you. And he gives her the landmine that he has had on his desk as like a way of defending her property.
Use this to defend your property.
And so that is, so Ron's really he's shaping young minds, which is fantastic. Yeah. And then cut back to the next day, and Ron is in his office, and Lauren's mom shows up and is like, what did you teach my daughter? And she's like, she was supposed to write about why government matters, and this is what she wrote. And on the paper, it's a, elementary school assignment, wide rule, like a lot of space to write. And all she wrote was, it doesn't. And Ron is so proud. and so, and he says, I really believe that. I'm a libertarian. And she's like, well, that's great. But she's a fourth grader. And that's not what fourth graders are supposed to do. Like they're supposed to like write cute reports and get gold stars, which is true.
And you ate her lunch?
So, right.
And gave her a landmine?
and you gave her a landmine. And his response is, it seemed appropriate at the time.
And she's like, how? Whenever. How is that ever appropriate?
How is it appropriate for a grown man to eat a child's lunch and give that child a combustible device?
When you put it like that, Jason, it does seem pretty ridiculous.
I think Ron is just so desperate, or not desperate, so unaware of how to friend that, he's the first time he's talking to somebody who's like really on board with his libertarian ideals. He's like, I really want you to remember this moment, remember this interaction.
Ron doesn't see age. He just sees ideals.
Oh man, that is profound. I think that is a good summary of Ron's interactions with people. So Ron is gonna make it right, and that's the credit scene. Is Ron is he has Lauren come in, and he's like, keep an open mind for a while. Essentially, like, listen to your teachers, go with the flow, and then when you're an adult, and when you're 18, you can drink, gamble, and become a libertarian. Lauren's response is, the drinking age is 21. I know, another stupid government rule. So she's going to rewrite the paper, and Ron's going to keep the original and have Lauren sign it. And it's a cute little moment.
Yeah.
Like, So Ron's story is like the most like straightforward. Like, it's funny. It's just like, it's great. Ron has so far not been really around children very much, other than Andy and April. And
those are the people that he's connected with the best so far, besides Leslie. Like, of all the people, of all the characters in the entire show, it's the kids that are, because he's the dad, and he doesn't, and I don't even think he knows his like paternal instincts, and like just like people gravitate towards him as a father figure, even though he doesn't want anything to do with that. But it just keeps happening. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And so here, this is the youngest person we see him interacting with. And it is a really meaningful event in his life.
Well, and the fact that
he doesn't have kids of his own.
Yeah. Yeah. And he just ends by telling her, and just so you know, you're way smarter than most of the people I work with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a great moment for Ron. And later on in the series, he's going to have more opportunity to, interact with children as a father figure. And it's great. It's just like, it's one more way we see Ron's transformation happening. And they're like planting the seeds now for, a couple of years from now in the show, like what Ron is going to, like, his journey. So I love it. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the C plot?
No, other than I had forgotten that this was the episode with this plot in it. And as soon as the girl came around the corner, I just got a huge smile on my face, because I love this thing because of all of those things. It was just a sweet little story that shows Ron's softer side, but also what he believes in as a character. Like, he's not changing, or he doesn't water anything down for this child. And I think that's the whole thing. Like, there's the jokes about him, when I was, 7, I was working in the steel mill, and, all those things. So it's like, this is just how he's like, that's every kid. So it's just authentic to Ron. And it's this really nice moment. I love this little storyline. It was, in the entire show, this was one of my more favorite small, one-off threads. So, yeah. But nothing to add. I have nothing like factual to add to it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. All right. Let's talk about the B plot then. So Leslie's gone, and the office is clearly in substitute teacher mode right away, because Andy is sitting at April's desk and answers the phone, Pawnee Zoo, monkey speaking, and then they make monkey noises. And Ron is not around at this moment. Like, we don't know where Ron is. But yeah, Andy and April are goofing off, and Tom comes in. He's like, everybody stop what you're doing. Come with me. All 4 of you. Where are you going? And then Ron comes. I was like, where are you going? And he's like, Leslie's not here, so we can do what we want. And Ron's like, I'm your boss.
I'm your boss.
and everybody laughs. Like, that's a good one, Ron. So he's like, let's go. Seriously.
Even Ron's reaction to that is like, Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So Tom takes everybody to a conference room at City Hall, and he's like, "I need you guys to help me. I have a great new game show where couples ask scandalous questions that the other one has to answer." And Jerry, he calls it "No Ya Boo," and Jerry's like, "Oh, it's like the Newlywed Game." And Tom's like, "No, it's nothing like the Newlywed Game." But then his talking head is like, "It is exactly the Newlywed Game," and he lists like. Everybody copies everything. So his favorite movie is Love Don't Cost a Thing with Nick Cannon, which is based on Can't Buy Me Love, which is based on Kramer versus Kramer or something, which I think was Shakespeare. Which none of that's true. Yeah. So Tom is doing a great this little moment here is a great comment on media in general. It's like everything is a copy of everything. And even our show, Parks and Conversation, is derivative, and it only exists because another thing exists. And so Tom is just jumping on that bandwagon to say, like, yeah, everything is a copy of everything. So I'm going to do this because all these networks that are out there on cable, they need programming. So somebody's going to want something like this. He even lists a bunch of networks that he could work for. Spike, G4, GSN, Fuse. Wow. Boom, Zip, Kablam, Slurp, Slurp Latin, Slurp HD. Now, of those networks, which do you think were actually
the
real?
First, I want to say the first 4. Yeah.
Yes. Accurate. But Andy's response is, I love Slurp HD. Have you guys seen Ultimate Battle Smoothie?
That is a dope show.
Ultimate Battle Smoothie. You were over last night and you were talking about a show about pottery.
Yeah.
like we are out of programming. Like we like everything. I never thought a show about pottery would be a thing that people were like, I need to watch.
It's not just a thing. It's really good. So there.
Right. I'm sure. Like I bet it is good. I also bet Ultimate Battle Smoothie would probably be compelling too.
Yeah. Depends upon how many bananas they use. Like, would you be like not like if you had to make a smoothie but you couldn't use bananas or ice? Like what would be the what kind of smoothies could you make? How would they battle?
Right.
Is it more of like a taste test, or would you like make your smoothie and then fight each other, or is it just like a smoothie off? Like who can make the best smoothie?
I think it would vary week to week between those two options. Taste test and an actual battle.
Like whose smoothie could do the most damage? Like on the Forged by Fire, the knife one, where then they're like, but could it kill?
Mm-hmm.
And then like that's the last test. Like could it chop through something?
And then they all died. Yeah. Some if a smoothie could chop through something, I mean that would win. Ultimate battle smoothie, that's for sure. So
what's the difference between a smoothie and a shake?
Tom's game show.
Do you think?
I think the shake is not blended the same way. It is blended, but a shake needs to have like the emulsifier blender. Whereas like a smoothie, you can just put it in any blender and like do it that way.
All right.
Also, I would imagine a smoothie is not dependent upon an ice cream base.
But yeah, but a shake is. I like it. All right.
Yeah.
These are just trying to figure out like what would the rule set be for Ultimate Battle Smoothie, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, but these are important questions if we're going to bring this to Slurp HD.
It's true.
So Tom's working through all these kinds of things. He even has like a theme song that he wants to play. He has a CGI puppy co-host. Like he's really worked through this show. And so he has Donna and Jerry as a couple and Andy and April as a couple. And you would think Andy and April, they're going to do great because they're married. They love each other so much. But Jerry and Donna just are knocking it out of the park. They're getting every question right. And the first question is like, who is your celebrity crush, basically? And Jerry writes Prince, and Donna said Prince, and they are excited about it. They're high-fiving. And who is your boo's favorite rock star? And so it's Prince for Donna. And then Andy responding for April was like, well, pretty obvious. It's going to be me because Andy is a rock star. And April actually writes down Jeff Mangum, the guy from Neutral Milk Hotel.
Ooh.
And says, Andy, you're not technically a rock star. This is the first time in my life, the first time I watched this, that I'd ever heard of a thing called Neutral Milk Hotel. And I thought it was fake.
Okay.
I didn't know that was a real band.
Check out In the Airplane Over the Sea. It's a fantastic album.
Okay. Well,
Listener,
I'll get right on that.
And if you have to jump into
and
like,
I'm back.
what did you think? The King of Carrot Flowers
really
Part
good.
1 is probably one of my favorite songs. Like off that album.
Wow.
Yeah. Go for it. Do it.
Wow.
If you got to jump in there.
Okay. I'll give it a go. But I thought it sounds like a fake band name. Because like Neutral Milk Hotel, those 3 words don't go together at all.
Well, I think milk is already a neutral. I mean, it's not acidic and it's not a basic, so it's neutral. And so it's just a place that in the middle of it all it's a hotel that just has milk. Like the milk, like the milk bars in Clockwork Orange, I guess.
Sure.
I've no
it all makes
escape
sense
from
now.
this line of thinking. So let's just move on.
No. So so this is not going well already. And the next time it cuts away, they come back, and the next question is like, where's your favorite place to smoosh your boo? And Jerry writes down, Donna would say her Benz, and Donna was also said her Benz. And April's response is, this question is gross. Our bed, I guess. And then Andy's response is Neutral Milk Hotel. And they get mad at each other, and he walks out. And then it cuts away, cuts back to Andy coming to Tom saying April coming to Tom saying Andy decided to quit music. He sold his guitar to Sewage Joe. And so she's asking Tom to help make it right. And so he sets up a bonus round for just the 2 of them. And all the answers to the questions are Andy. So like, who makes the best mac and cheese? And Andy's like, the best? I don't know, Kraft. Like, he really is thinking about it.
And not like who prepares it the best, but like who makes, like, who has the best boxed macaroni and cheese.
Right. Yes. And I don't know, Kraft. Which if Kraft did not get some kind of product placement fee for that, like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know how capitalism works anymore. But yeah, so the next question is what was the next question? I didn't write down the next question. Boo.
After the macaroni and cheese, it was I don't think there was another question, because then he figures it out. Wait a minute. These are all about me.
Right. Yeah. So
you totally set this up so that I would be unmad at you.
Right. And it didn't work. And then Tom's response is, you figured out April's plot, 100 points. And Andy's so excited. Like, yeah. And then, wait, no, I'm mad.
This isn't real.
Yeah. And then he leaves again. The next question was best couple ever.
That's right.
So, no. Who is the number 1 Colt fan in the world? And then Andy says, wait a minute, you set this whole thing up so I would be unmad at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so Andy leaves, and April has really done a bad thing here. So, she's hurting, she's upset. So the next day, or later that day, probably, April goes to Anne's house for advice. She knocks on the door, and Anne's response is, this is my house, right? They hate each other. And so she comes in, and like, I just need help because Andy's really mad at me, and I thought maybe you would know how to help him. And I told him, like, my favorite rock band is Neutral Milk Hotel because they are my favorite and they're really important to me. And Anne's response is like, look, he doesn't really care about the best rock band in the world. He just wants you to be proud of him and supportive.
Yeah.
And which is like, yeah, wow, good job, Anne. And April's response is, wow, I didn't know you were a marriage therapist. So like just instant snark right off the bat. So so that was pretty funny.
But then she like just kind of like, I love this bit of acting from Aubrey Plaza, because then she just kind of like catches herself and leans her head on the couch and looks down, and she's like, I'm sorry, my instinct is to be mean to you. Which is just
and Anne's response is, I understand.
Yeah, that's who you are. They know where they stand. And I don't think Anne totally hates April, but she knows like April does not like her. And yet deep down, should there not be the Andy thing, April obviously, so this is a kind of an interesting dynamic slash kind of friendship thing too, because April, Anne is obviously not interested in Andy anymore, but April is just super jealous, but in like protective of Andy, and this is her guy. So, and yet she'll do anything, including go to Anne, which is really cool.
Yeah, everybody's growing in this episode. Yeah. So it cuts to Andy at the shoe shine stand, and you can hear some music playing, and he's just like, man, I love this song. And if you are a regular watcher of Parks and Rec, you know that this song is The Pit. And he's like, wait a minute. He realizes what it is. It's like, where's this music coming from? And he goes out, and April is playing with Mouse Rat in the courtyard. And she's singing the song, and she stole Andy's guitar back from Sewage Joe.
But whatever, he's weird, so it doesn't matter.
And so Andy is immediately happy. Like, she's the best. I have the best wife in the world. She's awesome. So like, she totally changed the whole situation. She learned about how to better support Andy, and so that is the B plot. So
it is. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Summed up well. It is good.
Yeah, I love when he came out to the courtyard and he's just like listening at first. And again, Chris Pratt just nailed it, because he's like instead of just being this like, oh, this is awesome, he actually gets into the music. Like, he's like, yeah, this is a good song.
Yeah. He gets into the song that he wrote. Like, yeah. Like, his head's bobbing and is like, yeah, man. And like, part of it is also like, maybe he's never heard it. Like, he's only ever performed it. And so it's like, yeah, this is a good song. I like what Mouse Rat is putting down.
These guys are pretty good.
So yeah, like, we're the best band in the world. So yeah, I think it's awesome too that, the members of Mouse Rat are willing to drop whatever they were doing on a work day to come and cheer up Andy. Because
go ahead.
He probably told them, I'm quitting music. Like he sold his guitar. He probably already told them, like, I'm quitting music. So they're like, well, we like you, Andy.
Yeah, but also I feel like if April came, like, I would be scared to say no to April. I'm sure she threatened them in some way or made it very clear that they cannot say no.
No doubt. Absolutely true. So, but I just think Andy has a lot of great friends. And I do think it is because Andy is, while not super attentive, he is actually like, and we see him over and over again, like actually like willing to be there for people, even in his flaky way. Like, he's always willing to help. Sometimes he's just not helpful.
Exactly.
So, so that's the B plot, April and Andy's relationship, the journey that they went on. Okay, so the A plot, the main motivation for this whole episode is the relationship between Ben and Leslie. And this really is going to become the main motivation for the whole show. Listener, if you don't know that yet, I mean, this is the most important relationship, couple for the rest of this series is Ben and Leslie. I would say the second most important relationship, Ron and Leslie. And
the third would be Andy and the rich guy from England.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man, I love that episode. That's so good. Can we get ice cream later? Yeah, can we?
Can we fly? Can we fly them?
All right.
Sorry.
I love that their dynamic so much. It's so good.
Like he found his British counterpart, but just happens to be super rich. There's another.
And they both think Ben is their boss.
Yeah. I don't know. Can I go? Anyway, sorry. We're podcasting into the future. It's great.
All right. So the episode opens. Yeah. Cold open. Ben, Leslie, and Anne are out in the courtyard, and Ben comes out and he's like, "Hey, Leslie," and they start chatting and he's like, "Thanks for the budget documents," and Leslie is like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you like them." And when I wrote them, I was thinking about you. And he's like, "Because I asked you to write them." I was like, "Yep." And so they're like, "Chris wants to see us in his office, and I guess we should head over there." And like, "All right, okay, cool." And they're like super flirty and weird. And Ben starts walking away, and Anne's like, "Hi, Ben." "Oh, hey, Anne." Like he totally is oblivious to anybody else in the world other than Leslie. He's just smitten with her. And so Anne's like, "That was the most sexual tension I have ever seen in a conversation about documents." And Leslie's like, "We can't do this. We could get fired." And Anne's like, "Well, that's stupid. You should follow your heart. But if you're going to follow these rules, avoid any one-on-one tensiony situations with him." Yeah, Leslie's like, "You're right. Good plan." It cuts right away to going to Chris's office. "I'm sending you two on a trip." And so they are going to Indianapolis to try to pitch Pawnee as the host for the Indiana Little League baseball tournament. And so the two of them are a dream team. They can do anything together. They're the dynamic duo. And Chris is like, "I'm sending you guys to be the representatives for this." And so they're going to do that. So as Anne is saying, you should definitely never be alone with him. It's like right away, they're going to go and be just the two of them out of town together. So credits happen. And then Anne is, Leslie's at Anne's house looking to borrow clothes from Anne. I don't know why. Well, I don't know. Maybe this is a girl thing. Like I've never thought to my friends, I would like to borrow your clothes.
No.
Have you ever had that experience?
Never. Yeah, never.
So
not one time.
But and maybe, Jeremy, you and I are both taller people. You're like a giant among men. I am not I don't fit in most people's clothes. So like I've never been like the same size as anybody in my class ever. So it's like, who would I ask? So maybe that's why we just don't get it.
And also,
the only person. Well, there's one man I know who has ever asked to borrow somebody else's clothes, and that was my roommate in college. And he asked to borrow somebody's coat, like right in front of me. He's like, "Hey, can I borrow your coat?" And I thought that was weird then.
Were you wearing it at the time?
You have your own coat, Ryan. Like, why do you? Yeah, it was just so weird. Anyway, so I cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just saying, like, were you
wearing?
Say something. Were you wearing the coat?
No, it wasn't my coat. It was somebody else. Like we were in our dorm room and Ben came over wearing a coat, and a guy named Ben, not Ben from the show. And Ryan said, "Ben, can I borrow your coat?"
But was Ben
we were
wearing
inside?
Ben was
wearing
that's
it.
Even weirder. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the only time I've ever seen a man ask another man to borrow that man's clothes.
I don't know. That's interesting. I feel like maybe Leslie is going to Anne. I was like these two guys are trying to figure out like why these women are doing this thing. I'm sure somebody could write in and let us know like what, because in my mind it's like, yeah, you're right, Leslie. She's kind of insulting Anne in a way because she's saying like, I need to borrow clothes that make me unflattering, right? Like, I came to you first for this, but all of your clothes are too nice anyway, which I guess then defeats the insult. But yeah, Leslie doesn't have sweatpants.
Right. The first outfit she brings out is Julia Roberts' prostitute outfit from Pretty Woman. Like she's trying to find like non-sexual clothing at Anne's house. And it's like, that's the first thing she pulls out. It's like, "Leslie, you wear business suits all the time. Like there's nothing about your current wardrobe that like is anywhere like, yeah, you just
Pick out
pantsuit it
your
up.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg cosplay outfit. You know, that's perfect.
Here's the problem, though. Leslie probably knows that Ben's into that. So that's going to be a problem later. So she's, they're trying to figure out how to not be attractive to Ben. And so at one point they say to unseduce him. So they had we need to think of unsexy, boring conversation topics to talk about in the car, like this New Yorker article about the history of the ladder, talk about different dorm rooms at Johns Hopkins University. And then also she could read from her Sonicare booklet. Which I love. Like you could read from your Sonicare booklet. She's so desperate to not break the rules that that's where she's ending up. So then it cuts to and part of the tension here is Anne also is like, you guys need to be together. Like you would both be happier. The rule is stupid. And so Anne is not super helpful in this whole thing. So then it cuts to them in the car and so basically every dorm allows bed lofting, but the students have really taken to it at Woolman and McCoy. Ben says, "Did you go to Johns Hopkins?" No. Why would you know this? And then he's like, "Do you want to play some music?" Sure. And burn an awesome CD for the trip. And talking head, it's like Jimmy Carter's speech, learning to speak Mandarin, 16 minutes of old timey car horn, and something called Banjo Boogie Bonanza. So cuts back to the car and they're listening to the banjo and it's an amazing instrument. And Ben's response is, I didn't know it could be this loud.
Which is just a function of your stereo. So
right.
Now
I didn't know it could be this loud.
You've made some mixtapes in your day, right? Yeah.
I love a mixtape.
Didn't you used to record the radio to make
Oh yeah.
Tell me more about
so
that.
Good. I recorded all so Cube 93 every year would do a top 100 songs. We're going to play all 100 songs for the year. My brother and I would record it all.
Which I always thought was kind of weird because back in the day, or anytime you listen to radio, it's like, do you guys have more than 15 songs?
Well, it's the 100 songs over the year. Yeah. So, so we did that multiple years in a row. I also recorded Beatles A to Z, KZOK 102.5, classic rock. They would do a couple times a year, Beatles A to Z. So they would start with
Abbey Road? Or just the songs?
Abbey Road is the title of the album, not the song. So I think the first one was A Hard Day's Night, even though A should be at the after, because it should be Hard Day's Night, comma A. But so they started with A Hard Day's Night and then Across the Universe. And so it was just a great way to get the whole Beatles catalog, not in any album order, which was actually infuriating later, but that took 4 tapes.
4 tapes.
And so they would do it
I was just gonna say, and when
over the weekend, twice. So I would do record, and then I would have to come back because it was the 90-minute tape on each side. So I would set a timer to go back and flip it. So I'd get all the ads, everything, because I'm not going to sit in my room and just hit the pause and play for a whole weekend. I've got video games to play. So yeah,
amazing.
That was super fun.
I just needed I needed the listeners to know how dedicated you were to recording the airwaves, because I think that's pretty industrious of you.
I was a bit of a pirate when I was a kid. And I didn't even know that was not allowed. It's you guys are just putting it out there for free. Well, why shouldn't I, hold on to what you're making? Otherwise, it's just garbage. Same with NFL games. The warning, do not record this or rebroadcast this or share it in any way without the direct written consent of the NFL. And it's well, I'm going to record it anyway. I'm going to watch it.
My dad used to record all of the Seahawks games, but he would edit. He had a remote. It was a wired remote for the VCR, because we had one of those top loader VCRs, and he'd sit and we would watch the game, And then when a commercial came on, he would stop record. And when it came back on, he would hit record. And he had like all of their games on VHS that he had watched and I don't know if he ever rewatched them ever.
Wow. So, but at least he has the archive.
I think so.
That's pretty impressive.
Anyway.
So this mixtape is going to be really good. It cuts back to them in the car, and they are listening to whale sounds. So they're doing great. And then Leslie's like, well, you can change it if you want. And Ben's going to change it. And then an Al Green song comes on. And it cuts to Anne. Is like, yeah, I snuck an Al Green song. I want them to get together. So sue me. So then they're listening to that song, and Leslie's like, hey, did you see this? That, there's not enough hotels in Pawnee, but we need to make sure that they realize that there's enough hotels outside of town. And then she asks about a specific hotel, and is like, this one has the softest towels. And they're both like, yeah, I love a good soft towel. I love a good soft bath mat. It's like stepping on a lamb. Then Ben comes and takes him. Well, it's Pawnee. Yeah. You probably have opportunity to step on lambs.
That was your path.
And then Ben tries to get it. Wow. That was really something. So Ben tries to get an eyelash off of Leslie's face, and he gets it. And then he says, make a wish. And
I wish you would pay attention to the road.
And then it cuts to learning to speak Mandarin. Unit 3. And that voice in that recording is Adam Scott.
Yes.
So it's Adam Scott, like teaching Adam Scott how to speak Mandarin. So then like they get away from me, and I'm sorry. And the listener responds to this, I'm allergic to fingers.
Which could be true. I mean, for some people, if it had peanut butter on it or something.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah. So Leslie's plan is like, we should just not talk to each other for the rest of the trip. I'm going to just concentrate on the presentation. Ben's like, okay. And then the quote is from the next thing in the lesson is, this is my little brother. So So I just love the learn to speak Mandarin thing that happens right there. And then they cut to the actual Indianapolis, the delegation for Pawnee speaking. And, so Leslie's talking about all the benefits. The seats are extra cushioning for the massive size of our average citizen. You remember what happened last time we hosted this tournament is what one of the panel members say. And Leslie is, she's like, we don't have to talk about that. And then it cuts to Purd happily. From like the 80s, the
high top fade,
and he's got like the high top fade, and it's so great. And he says this: they're cute, they're cuddly, but now they're wreaking havoc at the state Little League championship. Pawnee's raccoon infestation. Have these little bandits stolen our sense of safety? And then cuts back, and Leslie's like, the raccoon problem is under control. They have their part of town, and we have ours. So it's not under control, right. It's segregated.
There's an understanding.
Yeah, they've reached a truce between the Warriors and the other gang in the Warriors. So then Ben starts talking.
Was it
No, that's the Sharks and the Jets from West Side Story.
The Warriors come out and play.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
So who is that other? Anyway, so Ben starts talking about how the city is wonderful, and he's been to 40 some towns in Indiana, and Pawnee is special. People are passionate and kind. They love their city. They take pride in their work. It's a very, very special place. And it turns out that Ben is all these things that Ben is talking about are really he's talking about Leslie, because later they get the bid, and they decide to go out to dinner where Chris recommended them, and Leslie's trying to make it not weird, so she invites the photographer from the the banquet that they're at, trying to make it less weird. They have great burgers. You've never been there. How do you know? It's like, I bet they have good burgers. So then they're at dinner, and Ben is saying like, look, you did really great. The presentation was good, and he says, Pawnee is a really special town. I love living there, and I look forward to the moments in my day where I hang out with the town and talk about town stuff. And the town has nice blonde hair and has read a shocking number of political biographies for a town,
Yeah.
which I like. It's like, oh, I see. You're not talking about the town at all. And so Leslie is like, oh, this is awful. And like, she's feeling the tension here in this moment because she's like, I don't want to lose my job and I want to do the right thing, but she really likes Ben. And so she's like, I need to go visit. I need to go see a man about some porcelain. You know
Not
what I mean?
cocaine.
I'm not buying cocaine. I'm going to the bathroom, the Whiz Palace, as I like to call it. And I'm not calling Ben. Or I'm not calling Anne. So Anne, we have a serious code, Ben. So so she calls Anne and like asks Anne to read her the letter that Leslie wrote to herself in case anything happened. And Leslie's like rejecting the letter altogether. And so she's made the resolution like, all right, I'm going to go make out with Ben on his face is what she says. I love
how the characters in Pawnee, for some reason, or at least the Parks Department, have like these backup tapes of each other, like, or like these backup plans, like with Ron with Tammy.
Right.
It's like
they have letters to themselves because they know their own weaknesses. They have videos warning themselves for the future about their own foibles and problems. Like Pawnee is all about preparation. Hail Zorb. And so, so Leslie's like, I'm going to do this. So she goes back to the table. And when she gets there, she sees that Chris is sitting at the table. He drove up. He was so excited that they got the pitch for Pawnee that he's like, I just have to come celebrate with you. And so he's there at the table,
and that was a nice little bit of filmmaking there too, because like she's gonna go for it. She doesn't care about the consequences anymore. And then we see the shot of Ben sitting there and he's looking at Leslie, but the waiter is covering up Chris, and then the waiter moves to reveal Chris, which I thought was a nice reveal shot. So yeah, it was good. I love where
good staging, good tension here, because you can see like when Ben is at the table, like something's weird, like something is different. And then Chris shows up. So so Chris is like, we should continue celebrating. There's no reason to go back home. I've got a condo here in the city. We could go hang out. We can go play mini golf. We can do all kinds of great stuff. And so they go and they stay at Chris's house. And Chris is like, Leslie, you can have the guest room, and Ben, you have to sleep on my couch. It is literally the comfiest couch you've ever been on. So they're at Chris's house, and they're staying there, and they're trying to talk a bit about their day and their relationship. And Chris comes out because he has to pee. Totally kills the mood. Leslie goes to bed, and then Chris is like, "Well, I'm up. You want to boggle?" So Chris is a weirdo. He's just so weird. And then cuts to the next day, and Leslie is in the office, and she is like, "I'm really glad Chris showed up. Things could have gone wrong." And but then he comes and brings the receipts. She's bringing the receipts to Ben's office for the whole trip, and then they kiss. What?
Uh-oh.
That's the show. That's the A plot. So clearly things are progressing for Ben and Leslie. And I say this, I know I say this every week, but there's a reason I'm doing a podcast about the show. I love the show.
Yep.
And I just am so I just appreciate how they have built this relationship with Ben and Leslie. I love how Andy and April, like they feel like real people. And I love Ron. Like when we get a little picture into Ron's psyche, everything about this episode is like all the good things about Parks and Rec on display for us.
Even Donna and Jerry a little bit with Tom, and then Tom's kind of, game show. He's still trying to invent something, make something up. And he tells Jerry to shut up because, even though Jerry's right, he can't be right. And Donna talks about her Benz, which, pretty soon she'll get fleshed out a little bit more as a character, which is nice, other than she's just the Mercedes-Benz lady. And then, I couldn't agree more. The show just keeps getting better. And I feel like even though we know how this ends, the season and the whole series, I can't wait to get to not get to the end, but I just can't wait to continue to going on that journey. Like this is a journey I enjoy taking over and over. And there aren't a lot of shows where I'm just like, let's just watch, True Detective again, or something like that. It's like you get it, but this is, I don't know. It's so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. I just love it. It's so good. They do a great job. So the next episode that we're going to be looking at is The Bubble, which is really good also.
We have two more episodes for season 3, right? The Bubble
and Little Sebastian.
That's right.
I mean, Sebastian is a character that has a huge impact on all of our lives for being such a tiny horse.
That's true.
So, yeah. Oh, man. That one is so good, too. Oh, so many good episodes. I'm trying to find when Zorb shows up.
Any show that can, continue to make episodes or bring back like the fact that fans love this mini horse because of how absurd it is, it's a winner. I mean, there's just too many good things about this show. I don't think I've met anybody who's seen Parks and Rec and is like, nah, I don't like it. Most everybody that's seen it likes it, I feel. If you don't like it, write in and let us know why you're listening to this.
Are you just really hate yourself? Like you're watching this show and like listening to this podcast where we talked about terrible field trips. For what reason?
Just want to be contrarian, just really, really want to get angry at somebody. That's fine. We could be that for you.
So so we're coming to the end of season 3, which I think is one of the best seasons of television ever. I think it helps that it's only 16 episodes. Because as you continue on with shows, like I think the 22, 24 episode season is a trap. And I would like more shows to just say like, we're going to tell how many stories we're going to tell.
Yeah.
And I think that would be better. But
and season, so like season wise too. Like some, and I know we're going to get someday we're going to talk about The Office, and then I'll just say it now. It's like, I felt like, and it wasn't just so much because Michael left the show, but it went on longer than it needed to, even for the story that they were trying to tell, I felt. So, and that's why, again, I like Parks and Rec maybe a little bit more than The Office. I don't know. It's hard. It depends upon when I'm watching it, because they kind of go out when they need to go out. That's how this show felt anyway. So.
Yeah. It wasn't so successful that like the network was like, you got to keep making more of this. It was just right in that sweet spot where but also Michael Schur is riding high from the Office creation, like he basically, by the time Parks and Rec is done, he will have like a blank check with NBC to make whatever he wants. And that's why The Good Place exists.
Yes.
So like, it's not a show that would be on television without somebody who has a track record of success. So, yeah. But I one more thing about the game show that I think is important. Like we're talking about all these characters and their relationships, and like the reason Donna and Jerry feel so genuine in that moment, because you spend a third of your day with your coworkers, right? You know so much about them just through your like every day hanging out with them. So like Jerry knowing these things about Donna, even though I would never say they are friends outside of work. Like they know these things because they work together. And like that is a great reveal about the dynamic of The Office. That's just like, they don't make a big deal about it, but it's like, no, they know each other really well because they do work together.
And so, it shows Jerry, I love it. As much as Jerry's like kind of a doofus, he's not an idiot, right? Like he pays attention. He knows what's up. They just kind of, pile on him at times. But yeah, he's the target. I think like him and Donna, like if I remember, they actually kind of do foster a bit of a relationship down the road, or at least in a couple episodes.
Well, next season next season, we're going to see that Donna is very interested in the way Jerry's brain works.
Yes.
So that'll be good. She's willing to cancel plans to hang out with Jerry.
Because she recognizes like, wait a minute, there's a lot more here. And I think, and what's so great about Jerry's character is we also get to go on that journey with Donna, like, because there is so much there. That was such a great choice to really make his backstory so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, later on, even Ben is going to go public with liking Jerry. And people are like, what?
I said it. There, I said it.
Oh, man. So good. So many good things.
Yeah.
So anyway, listener, we have blathered on long enough. So we'll let you go. But we'll be back next week talking about
Crazy Gold Medallions.
Parks and Rec together. Crazy Gold Medallions. Talking about. So, all right. I'll talk to you later, Jeremy.
Bye.